introduce a very special guest that, as I mentioned, spoke on our behalf today at the public service meeting at the Government Center. She is working very hard for all of us to expose the corruption that is going on in our country and the world. We learned last night, a few of us had an opportunity to visit with her, that she worked for President Trump before he was president. And she told her dad that he should be president. She spent 1 month recently at the border to see actually what's going on. So she's our eyes and ears to tell us exactly what she saw. She also spent 3 weeks in Panama, in addition to 1 month on the border. If that wasn't enough, she spent 3 weeks in Panama and lived in the jungle. Quite an experience. When I asked her what the most shocking was about her experience at the border, she said, the border in the United States looks like a third world country. Very sad. Her LinkedIn account was canceled years ago for exposing that they planned COVID because she had the actual contract showing the COVID, the patents for the vaccinations. And so they canceled her off LinkedIn. Tonight, please join me in welcoming our very special guest from Florida, Ann Vandersteel.
Thank you, Debbie. Wow, what a great crowd. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm going to stand down here if okay, because I'm going to operate this little slideshow I've got going. But today was incredible. Chad, where are you? There you are. Thank you for bringing Dr. Robert to pick me up yesterday at the airport. I've had the most incredible experience. I've never felt more loved anywhere, and I travel a lot, and I do a lot of really great things with some great people. Tom Renz is one of my dear friends, was just with him this weekend for Reawaken America in Miami. But you all are so encouraging to me because all we hear in Florida is, oh, Illinois is done. Forget it. They're never going to save themselves. But I look around this room and I see the participation and just the people I've met. You all are incredible. So you are the patriots and the white hats you're looking for. And a round of applause for yourselves for everything you're doing to further freedom and standing back up the republic. Thank you so much. All right, Devin, we good? Do we have our... Oh, you need me to open this up, don't you? Okay. All right. Let's see if this... Is it... it's coming up. Oh, it just takes a minute? Okay. So while we're just getting the audio-visual aids working, I did spend a month down in Texas with my colleague Michael Yon. Has anybody heard of Michael Yon, a Green Beret war correspondent? He is a true war horse. I've never worked with anybody that has more ethics and more courage and more determination to get the truth out than Michael Yon. I met him on January 7th, the day after the event that apparently took place again today, but this time it was Hamas in the Capitol. And good for Marjorie Taylor Greene for demanding to have all the videotapes preserved and all that. Good for her. But Michael and I collaborated for about 7 weeks between Texas and down in Central America, looking at the situation and trying to understand the complexities and who all are really behind it. So at a very high level, I'll tell you who's behind it. It's not just Joe Biden. He's a mouthpiece and a puppet when he can actually put a sentence together for the State Department for the United Nations, which we would call the World Economic Forum. They have policies, and it's about homogenizing the world. They want one world government. I think you know the narrative, right? And the World Economic Forum believes that we should dissolve all borders. And you've seen what's happened in Europe. Is it working okay? Hopefully. You've seen what's happened in Europe. Europe has been taken over. The forced migration, it's weaponized human migration. And that's what we're seeing happen in this country. Here in Illinois, you all have buses that show up every single day and are depositing migrants from around the world in your state. And they're coming from everywhere. They're going through the Panamanian Darien Gap, which is the border right between Panama and Colombia, which connects South America to Central America. And they're making a very dangerous journey. They're being encouraged to do so. But here's the most disturbing part. Our flag is down in the jungle. The United States flag is down there. Why? Because we're funding it. The human osmotic pressure, as Michael Yon refers to it, HOP, the human osmotic pressure, the push and pull of migration, is being forced through the policies of the World Economic Forum and their puppets. Very broadly speaking, Joe Biden is just executing what the World Economic Forum would like him to do. Greg Abbott is a World Economic Forum puppet. He has 7 pages dedicated on the World Economic Forum website for him. Governor Ron DeSantis is another puppet. And I'm from Florida, and I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. When these governors are bragging about the fact that they're moving migrants from their state where they've either washed up on the beach, as happens in Jupiter where I live, or they come across the border in Texas, these governors, by saying, oh, we're standing up for you, Texas and Florida, we're going to ship them to Martha's Vineyard or to Illinois, or let the blue cities deal with this. They're not doing anything. The fact of the matter is, the federal government is not here to defend our borders. The states are. We are to defend our borders. And the fact that Governor Abbott isn't doing his job like he did during COVID when he was responding to the World Economic Forum to shut down the border, he did. They shut the border down. Everything shut down during COVID. The whole planet stopped moving. It was a miracle. We kept rotating around the sun at that point. I was actually surprised the World Economic Forum didn't get that accomplished. But they are doing this to grandstand for the media. They're doing this to pander for votes and to raise money. And they're doing it to pull the wool over your eyes and go, see, somebody's taking care of something. Just like what I witnessed today when I went to your Kane County Commissioners meeting. These people were lovely, and I think a lot of them mean well, but they don't know the law. And as I've told my own state representative, stop funding the exportation of migrants into Martha's Vineyard, New York, and Chicago, and start deporting them back to the country from where they came. And I'm being told by my own representative, we can't do that by law. And I looked at Toby Oberdorf, if you're listening, said, Toby, yes, you can. Legally, you have the power lawfully, constitutionally. You can take these migrants and put them on a plane. You can charge double for that. I'll fund it. I don't have a problem with that. Don't send them to Martha's Vineyard and take a photo op. It's not helping the situation. All you're doing is furthering the agenda of the World Economic Forum. They want everybody to be pushed far into the country because they want to destroy our country. And that is happening as we speak. As we sit here, as sure as day, another 1,000 people just came across the border. And I can tell you what Michael and I are seeing right now is it's not just women and children, which, by the way, most of them are really here for being trafficked. I can talk to you about all the different organizations and non-governmental organizations that are taking billions of dollars, billions with a B every month, from a budget at Health and Human Services, which has a $2.9 trillion budget, and they're spending billions monthly to house these children by the thousands in warehouses. We saw them with our own eyes. Walmart supercenters are being closed, and they're holding children. We went and saw them, and you would be shocked at the hullabaloo that happened when we pulled up on the property, which had a gas station and a Dunkin' Donuts and other areas to do commerce. We got near the booth, and they surrounded us with golf carts, wanted to know who we were, why we were filming, and don't come any closer to the building. This is, and the people that live in these towns, they know what's going on, and you know why they allow it? Because these border towns, if they're lucky, make $8 to $10 an hour. But if you work at one of these facilities, you're making 17 to 20. So it's all about the money. And this is unfortunately what happens. Good people get lured into situations that they know aren't good because of the money. But every now and then you get federal whistleblowers like Tara Rodas, who was at the Pomona Valley site in Pomona Valley, California. You have Carlos Arellano, who worked in the Rio Grande Valley, who worked for a number of these non-governmental organizations. I think he worked for all 10 of them, the biggest ones being Southwest Key Programs, MVM, or SLS. They have hundreds of warehouses all over the country. Hotels like Roosevelt Hotel being taken over in New York, 5,000 migrants in one hotel. Each one of these migrants costs the federal taxpayer, I'm glad you're all sitting down, $780 per day. Now, if you have 5,000 children and call it $800, how much money is that per day and then per month? So you see, when I say billions, this is not an unreasonable number. I'm not just making it up to sound shock value. This is what's going on. Your government's funding it. And unfortunately, we all know the dollar is worthless for the most part. The full faith and credit of the United States has virtually been eliminated because, let's face it, we're not getting what we're paying for. The district of corruption is a dumpster fire that is slowly but more rapidly burning itself out right now, and we're watching it happen in real time. So at the end of the day, it comes back to you right here and me at home to take care of business and to protect our own. And as I explained to your county commissioners who kept saying it's out of our jurisdiction, I said, I beg to differ. This is your jurisdiction. You have a duty to protect your constituents that live here, your citizens. This is your job. This is what you were elected, hopefully, to do. So if they're not doing it, you all have a civic duty to stand up and hold them accountable. And I'm going to get to that towards the end of the presentation. If we can't get this going, I'll just use it for my own notes and walk through it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Don't worry about it. No, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. I only spent hours putting it together. So I'm just kidding, Deb. I know you did. It's all good. It's all good. So, you all do have a civic duty, and if you pick up your Declaration of Independence, how many people carry a pocket Constitution? Yep, good. I'd like to see every hand in the room. Everybody, Hillsdale gives them away for free. How many people carry a pocket Constitution? Okay, well, I always have one in my backpack or my purse. I probably have it in both. But if you read the Declaration of Independence, which, there you go, thank you, sir. If you read the Declaration of Independence, you will see there's a list of grievances. Those same grievances that they listed back in the day, maybe the language was slightly different because they were a little fancier. It's all in plain English, are the same things they're doing to us today. Nothing's new under the sun. They do the same things over and over. And so we're going to talk a little bit about tactical civics as well. And this is a solution, and I advised your county commissioners here in Kane County that they should engage in such, because Tactical Civics is actually an organization that's Christian-based, but they've actually stood up 1,000 chapters in 1,000 counties. We have 3,141 counties here in America. So we are 1/3 full in less than a year, and it's exponentially growing more quickly because myself, other new media colleagues are out here. We're talking about it now, and I'm openly talking about it on every microphone I have in front of me because this is the solution to how we take it back. You don't need Washington, D.C. They're a bunch of fools, let's face it. How stupid do we look to the world right now? Right? If that's the representation of you all, we're embarrassed. But we have to just ignore them, cast the district of corruption into the dumpster fire that it is, and focus locally because we're the ones that are going to save ourselves. I'm not waiting for Donald Trump to come back or anybody to show up unless it's Jesus Christ, and that's a different situation altogether. So, okay. I want to just kind of run through a little bit about Operation Burning Edge. We started this journey out, and I apologize you can't see any of these pictures. They are pretty good. Michael and I decided to start going from Texas to California, and we were going to do a month-long journey. I rented an RV, and I was an intention, like I said, to get all the way to California, but we started at SpaceX. And at SpaceX, which is Brownsville, Texas, sort of the bottom of Texas before it goes up towards the Panhandle, we learned there very quickly that SpaceX not only can blast off a heck of a rocket right on the beach, but they also have a real problem because there is no border. That's where the Rio Grande comes down and dumps right into the Gulf of Mexico. And from here to the wall back there is as wide as the Rio Grande is, and the water's maybe knee-high. The Mexicans are right there. We're waving. Everything seems copacetic until the lights go out. And I can tell you what we had equipment with us. The gentleman, or a company by the name of Tracus Systems, provided a tactical truck with an arm that went up about 30 feet into the air with a night vision equipped camera. And we could hide around, behind mounds of dunes and such where they couldn't see us, put up the camera. We could watch what was going on the Rio Grande. We watched them come across the border. We watched Customs and Border Protection standing here smoking cigarettes, watching them do it, doing nothing about it. That was day one. I said, holy cow, this is pretty incredible. Now, mind you, I've done a lot of work with the Operation Fast and Furious and Brian Terry, who was shot and killed during Operation Fast and Furious, a border protection agent, BORTAC agent to be more specifically. I was shocked and appalled. We followed a lot of the drug dealers that were bringing drugs across the water, and they thought we were really the bad guys, meaning the good guys as in police, so they were throwing their drugs out the truck. We have it all on camera. This is going on right there at SpaceX property. Human trafficking signs all along SpaceX property. This is a known problem right down there. Right near there in Brownsville is where we saw Southwest Key Properties. We met up with a gentleman by the name of Carlos Arellano. He is a whistleblower that came forward, working for 10 years for these organizations that trafficked children. He told us stories about how they would move children in the middle of the night on planes into small FBO airports, small private airports, where buses would pick up some of the kids and then private automobiles would gather a select few. The buses would take these kids from one location to another warehouse where they were stored, trafficked, because you get paid. Remember, these organizations all swap kids because they're all getting paid $780 a month per day per kid. But some of these children were removed and they were brought into people's private homes. You know how the government has told you they're missing 85,000 children? Have you heard this number recently, that the government lost 85,000 children? It's way more than that. Because I'm in receipt, thanks to one of the whistleblowers, I'm in receipt of a list of 8,600 children that came out of just one facility during a 4-month period. We have hundreds of facilities, and we have a 12-month period. If 8,600 children have been removed during a 4-month period just out of one facility and put into private homes, how many children really have been distributed around the country? And they're in your neighborhoods. They're everywhere. The worst part is, the majority of these houses belong to illegal aliens. So these kids have been removed out of the system, and now they're basically black. They're out of the system, out of the books. And these are the kids that are being trafficked and pimped out. These kids want to go home. The whistleblowers have talked about the painful nights where they've heard these kids screaming and crying, "I want to go home, I want to go home," in Spanish. Fortunately, she speaks Spanish. So you can see we have a big problem. Joe Biden is the largest, what I consider, human trafficking kingpin in the world, and America is the largest consumer of child sex trafficking, as horrible as it sounds. But that's the facts. So I'm not here to tell you that we have to go out and rescue these kids. There's organizations that do that, and I'm actually giving this information to some of those organizations. But it's a very difficult process because there's rehabilitation, there's psychological evaluations, there's reintegration. Do we send them home? Did their parents sell them into this? We don't know. It's a really complex problem. But it's being magnified by the fact that right now you have a border that's so wide open that if you have, as I was talking to somebody earlier, they try to get somebody in here lawfully in the country. They can't. I said, just let them walk across the border down in Brownsville. It's super easy. Nobody's going to stop them, and they'll get $2,200 a month. That's what's going on. And if you don't want to do that, you can use the Customs and Border One app, CBP One app, and you can fly in directly into the city of your choice. You can bypass the Customs and Border Protection altogether. Obviously, that means you have some money to afford to do that. But you can bypass that and still collect your $2,200 a month to being illegal in this country. So while we were there, we also uncovered a massive colonia. Is anybody familiar with the term colonia? Couple people? It's a colony. And this colony, which is just one in Texas, is 60 square miles. We flew over it a couple of times in a helicopter, 60 square miles, 60. This will house 250,000 people, but it's being marketed in Spanish on Instagram and TikTok and social media only into Latin and South America. It's housing for strictly illegal aliens. As evidence, when we were on the ground, all the MS-13 gang symbols that were spray painted everywhere. The colonia is being developed by a gentleman by the name of Andrew Trey Harris. He's been developing this property for about 15 years or so, and he will tell you that it's, there's no illegal aliens there. None of that happens. The funny thing is when we brought all this media attention, and Michael and I's Operation Burning Edge was very successful. We had so much media attention that we finally got some congressmen to join us on a second trip in the air to fly over it. We had Congressman Brian Babin from Texas and Congressman Morgan Luttrell. Morgan Luttrell is the SEAL Team 6 twin brother to Marcus Luttrell from Lone Survivor. People see that movie or read the book? You were impressed, right? Like, wow, what a hero. Let me tell you about Morgan, because we also had Sheriff Greg Capers from San Jacinto County, which is next to Liberty County where Colony Ridge is. Todd Bensman, who's another journalist like Michael and myself, also with the Center for Immigration Studies, was in the room, and we had a private briefing in this very nice house of the gentleman that owns the helicopter that was generous to fly us around a few times. We were giving a private briefing, and Todd Bensman posed the question to the sheriff. Well, Greg, why don't you patrol the area, take some of your deputies and go in there, and if you see tail lights out, maybe you can pull somebody over for a traffic stop, and we can figure out who's who in the zoo. And if somebody shouldn't be in here because they have a warrant for their arrest, they're a gangbanger or whatever, you can arrest them. Well, being the good journalist I am, I'm filming this whole conversation thinking this is great. We have the congressman here. We're going to take him up. We're going to show the world how we're engaging to educate everybody. Morgan Luttrell asked me to turn off the camera and delete the video. He freaked out and said, whoa, 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 I don't want my name or any of this associated with me. I can't believe you're asking these questions. So I did what he asked. I deleted the video, but he didn't tell me I couldn't talk about it. So I'm telling you, this was what Congress wanted. And I said to Morgan, I said, the reason we're doing this is because the people are the government. And that's when he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. He put his hands over his head. He goes, I'm federal. We're the top. Okay, you guys get it. He's on the bottom. In fact, the president is even below him. Okay, they are public servants. They are facilitators for what you want. Amen, right? But this is the mentality of someone who's been in service in the military and now in Congress. And oh, by the way, I was so taken aback by that. I just shut up. I was like, oh, I don't want to make a scene in this nice man's house, so I'm going to be quiet. We took him up on the helicopter. We had a debriefing. They both congressmen seemed, wow, what can we do? What can we do? And I said, well, you're the congressman. What are you going to do? What do you think we should do? You were a SEAL. I went home back to our hotel that evening in Austin or Houston, and I decided to do a little digging. So I looked up on opensecrets.org, which is where you can find anybody and everybody who's ever given a donation or received a donation for campaign financing or any kind of campaign. Wouldn't you know, Morgan Luttrell got $17,400 from the developer at Colony Ridge. He acted like he didn't know what was going on when we had him up in the helicopter. Governor Abbott, $1.4 million from the developer at Colony Ridge. Brian Babin, $0. So now you know who's who in the zoo. And so a lot of noise. We had Daily Wire there and other journalists all picked up the story. Michael and I did a plethora of media interviews. We took over the Alex Jones studio one day because Alex invited us to come up from the border and sit in for an hour. And he was so amazed at all the information we were giving him. He said, please come back for the full day. I was like, I can't believe I'm hosting an Alex Jones show. This is crazy. How the heck did that happen? So we went back, and we had guests like Steve Bannon on and Mike Flynn on and Joshua Yoder with U.S. Freedom Flyers, who's in one heck of a fight. There's so much going on in this movement right now. It's insane. But we got to keep our eye on the ball, which is right here in this room. How are we going to defend ourselves and protect ourselves and reestablish our republic and our freedom from this massive cancer that's everywhere, all over the place, because people are more interested in money and not protecting our personal sovereignty, which is what our country was founded on. So that being said, the media firestorm continued, and eventually Dan Patrick, who's the lieutenant governor of Texas, as well as Ken Paxton, who in the middle of his own impeachment inquisition took a meeting with a member of our team for 3 hours, looked at all the videos we had, listened to the testimony of the whistleblowers from child trafficking, listened to what we had to say about Colony Ridge, and said, as soon as I'm out of this mess, I'm investigating Colony Ridge. So then we had 61 members of the House GOP all agree unanimously and voted to investigate Colony Ridge. Dan Patrick, who's the lieutenant governor under Abbott, unanimous vote investigate Colony Ridge, in addition to the fact he put out this statement that's going to blow you away. He stated he believes there are 40 to 50 million illegal aliens in our country right now, and I think he's right. That's 1 in 7 of us, ladies and gentlemen. We have a country of 350 million. That's 1 in 7. So this is how pervasive the problem is, and that border is wide open, and they're still coming. But here's the problem. They're not sending their best. We were down in Darien Gap for 3 weeks. I have the bug bites and the welts that are healing right now all over my body to prove it. I listened to Dr. Zelenko, for whom I'm the chair of his foundation. And yes, thank you. I took my hydroxychloroquine to prophylact for malaria and anything else. I was the only one who didn't get sick, along with some other stuff called C60 Evo, which is fantastic. The Centerfront guys, Border Patrol, Jan, all the other guys, Ben Bergquam from Real America's Voice, another guy, Oscar Blue, they all got sick, but yours truly, little Barbie, didn't get sick. So that being said, when we were down in Panama, we witnessed with our own eyes who exactly is coming across the border. So we've been hearing, a lot of military-age men. Folks, it's all military-age men. There were a few women and children, but they were meek and they were being trafficked. And it was evident by the way that the kids were being... How do you know when you hold your baby, how you hold your baby? And if you're holding something that's not yours, you hold it completely differently. These kids were merchandise. It was so obvious. You didn't have to be an expert to see what you were seeing to know what you saw. You had a ton of military-age men. A lot of them said they were from Venezuela. Well, guess what? Hezbollah has trained and learned perfect Spanish. They've learned how to dress and swag just like a Venezuelan male. And the Venezuelan ambassador to Iran is rubber stamping Iranian passports. So you have a lot of Hezbollah that's coming across through Panama right now. And why are they doing that? Why are they not flying in here? Well, it's money. It's a lot cheaper. And let's face it, these guys are fit. They can make the journey. And the ones that don't make the journey, the ones that really are trying to get here for a better way of life, I saw them too. I saw them in the Indian camp of Embera Indian at the base of the mountains right outside the jungle before they get into a canoe for 3 hours and move further down the river where they're picked up by buses. These people were nearly dead. We saw numerous people with heat strokes. Their faces were melting from the heat. They were stroking out in front of us. But the most disturbing part is the fact that your government, our government, is publishing pieces called Declaration of North America, January of this year, talking about how they're all about diversity, equity, inclusion, protecting the indigenous, i.e. the Embera Indians, and homogenizing and dissolving all of our borders. So Joe Biden, Trudeau, and Obrador in Mexico all signed the Declaration of North America, making us one big region. We're no longer individual countries. We're one big region, one big happy family, and it's all about migration and work opportunities for the migrants. Guess who's paying for it? We are. So when you go down to Panama and you see the indigenous Embera, who, by the way, has anybody been to Panama? It's a beautiful country. I'd love to have a second home there. It's absolutely exquisite. I love the people. The Panamanians are lovely. They love Americans. They love the fact we built the canal. They were asking me everywhere I went, where are the Americans? Why aren't you here anymore? The Zonians, which are the children of the families that grew up building the Panama Canal, are asking us, why aren't you guys here? Why aren't you here? We need you back. Why don't you guys stand up the Monroe Doctrine and protect this hemisphere like you used to? You've allowed the creep of communism to take over, and we have. So that Declaration of North America, where they say they want to protect the indigenous, they're destroying the indigenous. The Embera Indians live in peace and harmony along the river, the Chuquinaca River and the River Turquesa, all these beautiful rivers. They live in them, they bathe in them, they wash their clothes, they swim with the caiman crocodiles. They're totally in harmony with nature. It's a very agricultural society with a lot of, they grow their own food, they have chickens and cows and horses. Everything is right along the river, and they wave and they're happy to see you. What do you have coming through? Our militants, essentially, destroying not only the rainforest with endemic species right there in Panama and Colombia, never to be replaced. Once they're gone, they're gone. The Chinese are raping their hardwood trees that are the hardest wood you have. It's as strong as steel, destroying the ecosystem in the rainforest, destroying the way of life for these Indians who are now catering to a whole new economy of people they've got to feed, clothe, provide services for that were never in the jungle before. So again, this Declaration of North America is another lie. It's to make you feel good. We're helping the people. Guess what? These people getting $2,200 a month. How much do you pay for a Starbucks coffee? You know how much coffee was in Panama? 40 cents. You think that $8 coffee with their $2,200 a month check is going to get them very far? They think they're coming for a better way of life. They're being sold a bill of goods, and instead they're going to come up here and they're going to realize $2,200 a month isn't going to get them anywhere. So, we have a big problem. They're bringing disease, crime, and they're bringing no skills. The people that are coming now are not their best. If they're not emptying out their prisons in Venezuela or other countries like Iran and Cuba, they're sending their military. They're building the Trojan horse and Trojan army right here, and we're paying for it. The Chinese have been speaking about this for years. They believe that this land, America, belongs to them because they see themselves on par and genetically equal to the American Indian, for which they say we stole their land. Now, that may be true, but the fact of the matter is the Chinese aren't going to come here shooting bullets at us right now, because we're going to start shooting at each other. They have fomented a color revolution, perfected the skill of color revolutions all over the world, and they've now brought it home here. We have identity politics, racial slurs. They've divided this every which way but I can think of, right? We go from sexual orientation to sex to color of skin to race to what Republican, Democrat. It's a joke. Instead of looking at us like one country under God, as children of God, as Dr. Zelenko said, we have one true God. We're now divided so many different ways. And they're using that skill to destroy our country and import the army, for which we're going to see George Floyd incidents on steroids in cities across this country. Today's example of them going into the Capitol, how many of you think anybody's going to be arrested for that today? You think anybody will get arrested? I doubt it. I'll be surprised. But this is what I mean. They're targeting those that are standing up for freedom like they've never targeted us before. So the border situation is just emblematic of a bigger problem that we have. And the bigger problem that we have is we don't know how to govern ourselves. So let's talk about some solutions. Who's heard of tacticalcivics.com? A few? Excellent. Well, by the end of the night, okay, so maybe 10 people. Great. Because here's how we're going to govern ourselves, and it's not complicated. Tacticalcivics.com, thank you, David Zuniga, started this organization 10 or 15 years ago, and it wasn't going very well or going anywhere because he didn't have a platform. Thanks to social media and the censoring speech cartel, some of us have managed to survive like whack-a-mole, bouncing from platform to platform, but been around long enough that people will follow because maybe we have something they need to hear. And I'm telling you, what I'm going to tell you is you need to hear. We have an opportunity, and we've always had this opportunity to govern ourselves. The Constitution says we the people, right? It doesn't say we the World Economic Forum or we the criminal cabal in Washington, D.C. It's we the people. And we the people created that government. We create the local government, we create the county, the state, and the federal. And it's the Union of States that said to D.C., we're going to give you some power to defend us and give us our mail and coin our money. But that's about it. Okay, levy taxes only in certain instances, but that's it. Everything else stays here at home. And our states have to rise to that occasion, which means you have to rise to that occasion, not your public servants, which lovely people today, but they just don't really understand how the game works. So in order to get back our power, we have got to, any of you been involved in election integrity investigations? A lot of you in here? Thank you for doing that. Do you feel like it went nowhere because nothing's happened? Are you frustrated? Yeah, it's disheartening. It makes you want to quit, doesn't it? Believe me, I've wanted to quit what I'm doing for 10 years. I keep saying I'm going to quit, and I keep coming back to the microphone. So here's how we're going to play the game, and we're going to play it by the rules of the Constitution. Citizen grand juries and militias it's a 1,000-year-old protocol. It's been around forever. A citizen grand jury can be stood up. We've already got 1,000 chapters of Tactical Civics, and we've got some citizen grand juries that are beginning to stand up and investigate with the evidence that you all have already collected. You've already done the work. You just didn't have a platform from which to actually engage and present the evidence for somebody to do something. And by law, you are allowed to form a citizen grand jury, listen to the evidence, and then indict. And when you indict said public official for a crime that they have committed, there is an actual punishment that goes with it. There's a penal code. That indictment will be presented to your county sheriff. Now, we all know there's some sheriffs around this country that aren't constitutionally minded. Even though they said they swore an oath, they're not there really to defend the Constitution. They're there to collect their paycheck from the county government. So that being said, this is where your Second Amendment, well-regulated militia comes into play. I pulled up, and I wish I could show you, I pulled up your Illinois state constitution. So if you look at your state constitution, I think it's Article 12 in your constitution, it exactly says you're allowed to have a well-regulated militia. And that militia defers to the civics, to the civilians, what you all want. So they have to listen to you. And this well-regulated militia isn't the Army, isn't just this National Guard, it's you all. And I'm not talking about putting on your tactical gear and face paint and running around the woods with your AR-15. I'm talking about defense. I'm talking about enforcement of what a grand jury indicts. So when you have the evidence to find somebody guilty of doing whatever it is, election fraud, COVID fraud, whatever fraud, you can indict. And if that sheriff won't arrest, you have a duty to yourselves to send the militia to make the arrest. That courthouse that you have over here, it's beautiful. By the way, your town is so beautiful. I'm so impressed. It's just striking to be here. I'm, like I said, very honored. That courthouse is turned into an Article 3 courthouse where that indicted official has the opportunity to have a jury of his or her peers listen to the case being presented against him or her. And that jury may not find them guilty, but guess what? That's how the system works. Everybody deserves to have a fair shake. No matter if they're guilty or not, they deserve that fair shake. So we have to present the evidence. This is what's going to start to happen around the country. And I'm very serious, incredibly serious when I tell you we have 1,000 counties already going on in this. This organization meets twice a week. They have Zoom calls twice a week. They're incredibly active. They have their own social media app, and it's not a Facebook app, take a picture of your dinner, and these are my kids at their ballerina concert. This is a serious app where people are talking about serious issues. They want you all to be engaged. I want to be engaged. I wouldn't be standing here if I wasn't already engaged. I've been asked to run for various political positions at home, and I'm weighing the option because I feel like I've got to put my money where my mouth is. But I'm not going to go run for U.S. this or U.S. I don't want to be in Congress in D.C. It's a waste of time. Those people have wasted our time with dog and pony shows. God bless Jim Jordan and the House Select Committee on the weaponization of the federal government. But seriously, it's another Trey Gowdy Benghazi story. I can't listen to them bark anymore. They don't do anything. So you all are going to be the ones to do something, and it's going to start right here. So yes, give yourself a round of applause for that. Give yourself a round of applause for that. Because here's the other shocking news, in case you haven't caught any of my broadcasts, which, by the way, I do broadcast every night, weeknights, at 8 o'clock on Brighteon TV. And I'm also at 9 p.m. on my own Rumble channel, and Vandersteel. You can find me there. But the jokers in D.C., as I call the regime in power, I run around with some pretty cool people, and some of the people I run around with are very intelligent, way above me. I can't even carry their tool bag. But we got engaged in doing Freedom of Information Act requests, FOIAs, and we FOIA'd all of the Biden regime in power, every single member of the cabinet. It started with Secretary Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense. And the reason it started with Austin is we were like, why is he force mandating these jabs when we've already done the homework and we know it's in these jabs? I got kicked off my first LinkedIn for publishing what was in the jabs in April of 2020. Bill Gates didn't like it, so he had his buddy Reid Hoffman throw me out. But we were questioning, why would he knowingly put his men and women in harm's way on something that's experimental? They should have informed consent. There's no informed consent because you can't even see what's in the jabs. They don't publish it on the prescribing information on the sheets blank. And so we decided to look him up. Who is this guy? Well, it turns out when you swear an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution, right, you put your right hand on the Bible and you raise your left hand and you repeat after me, right? You say the oath. Well, that's 5 U.S.C. 3331. 5 U.S.C. 3332 is where you take the same oath you've given and you actually sign your name and you have it witnessed and notarized. And that gets filed in the Federal Register. So the Federal Register is basically the secretary for everything that happens in the government. Everything that they do, they pass laws, whatever, it's all in there. Nobody in the Biden cabinet has Part 2 done. And if they do have it done, it's not witnessed or it's not notarized or it's not signed, including Kamala Harris. So this nice elite squad decided to send a petition to the U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves in Washington, D.C. Now, Matthew Graves has been very busy the last couple of years, getting people from January 6th arrested and thrown into the gulag. But we decided to send him a petition saying, hey, this is a petition for a writ of quo warranto, and we want to know by what authority, quo warranto means by what authority do these people have if they don't have oaths of office? Rochelle Walensky from the CDC, and so on, and Blinken, and Secretary Mayorkas for the Homeland Insecurity border situation. By what authority? So we asked Matthew Graves to look at this, and if he agreed to issue this writ and demand that these people provide their oath, and if not, they have to leave. Everything they've done the last several years is reversed, and the people that were in the job get placed back in the job until another election or replacement can be found. Nothing. Matthew Graves sat on that, completely ignored us. So then we decided to FOIA Matthew Graves. What do you think we found? Same thing, no oath. So, that's my show. I knew that song. I was like, did my computer go off? Anyway, so then we decided to FOIA Judge Boasberg. He's a federal district judge in D.C. who has put a lot of people behind bars for January 6th. Guess what? No oath of office for Boasberg. So then, and I talked with Liz. You know Liz Harrington? She's President Trump's personal press. Okay. So I reached out to Liz and I told her this, and Kurt Olson as well. We've given him all this information. He's one of Trump's attorneys. And Peter Tickton, who I've known for a long time, he's one of Trump's attorneys. We gave him all this information. Turns out there's a few more people in President Trump's orbit that are giving him a really bad time right now. Same situation. So at what point do we just rip the curtain and the Band-Aid off and see who's actually Oz behind the curtain? Right? It's time, don't you think? Do we need to go guns blazing into D.C. or into your local capital to do this? No, we don't. We don't need to do this. We don't need to be violent. And you know what? Think about all the stuff they've done to us, and the fact that we're still sitting here peacefully is really quite extraordinary, because they are just poking and they're firing shots. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but when they started force vaccinating people, that was a shot heard around the world, because they put it in 5.5 billion arms and they lied to everybody about it. It was a flat out lie, what they did. And those repercussions are unfortunately still manifesting themselves today. Now, what are we going to do? Tactical civics. We can't wait for Trump to come back or anybody to come back. We can't even wait for Jesus, because it's on God's time. God expects us to act and preserve this second covenant nation. Tactical civics. This is what we must do. We must engage at the local level. I would encourage everybody, especially if you have a cell phone right now, just bookmark tacticalcivics.com in your phone. And when you get home, on the front page of the website is an 11-minute video. When you listen to this video, you're going to go, how did I not know this? It is so blatantly in your face obvious that you're going to, right there on the homepage, hit that little red button and you're going to join. And you'll immediately be, they'll not immediately, but within a day, they'll reach out. And I cannot encourage you enough to do this. Why? Because if you do join, you will be pulled right into a community that's locally even here, and you can stand up this chapter. And by the way, you can educate your county commissioners, and you can actually get them to work for you. Yes, ma'am. Tacticalcivics.com. Tacticalcivics.com.
Are they doing it this way with our all caps name? I became a state national sovereign, right? And I've removed myself as a 14th Amendment citizen.
Right.
Slave. Are they not doing it through their all caps name? I mean, we have two governments, right?
Right.
I've done all these FOIAs. I'm really close to Sheriff Mendrick, my DuPage County Sheriff. He's like, Suze, I'll arrest them all, but Bob Berlin, the state attorney won't prosecute. So I get a ticket for holding a 3G cell phone, and I was like, I'm going to try this out and see if I can, stand this,
Right.
if I can stand up in court. Sure enough, I was like, I don't contract with y'all, because this is not, my all caps name is not
Who I am.
it's who I am. I went back for a trial for a 3G. I was trying to fit into the 5G, trying to hook up an old phone.
Right.
So now I'm at a trial, and it's 3 weeks later, and that judge hits the gravel and was like, okay, we're done here. We're going into a recess. And I was like, is it something I said? It's, a joke, because I think this is unfunny. And they got me so fast out of the court.
Right, you won.
Because and she's like, it's your lucky day, Susie. And I was like, for what? What? Are you kidding?
Okay, so what you're talking about, Susie, let me...
It's so tricky, and it's like you have to...
This is a little bit, not off topic, but it kind of is, but yes. Okay, so I'm a state national. I wasn't going to go into that, but you're a state national as well. And essentially, the government has been created a corporate fiction of yourself. Are people familiar with this topic? Everybody in here is? Not everybody? All right, very briefly, because I was trying to keep this to the border, so I don't want to take too long. So if I need to stop, just tell me.
That's different, though, than the grand jury assemblies.
Not grand jural assemblies. These are grand jury. Yeah.
There's also something already going on here in Illinois, forming grand juries and county by county.
Excellent.
And it's very different from state national.
It is.
It's very distinct.
Correct.
Caution you to be very careful and make a choice.
Correct. And I agree with you. You're either in one lane or the other. So what I'm talking about is in the lane of, as a U.S. citizen and as a voting member of this public, the citizen grand juries is your option right now to hold your public officials here in your county and elsewhere, but specifically here in your county, to clean it up and get control of what's going on. Because right now your county thinks the federal government can dictate mandates to you, i.e. force vaccinate you. just like they do in Florida. And we actually have in Florida, we have stood up and we've pushed back, and there's counties in Florida that now have put a wall up saying no federal mandates, no WHO, the World Homicide Organization mandates. They're not going to be able to do anything. But it's because we're going county by county to provide that insulation around us and holding our rights up in honor so that they can't come after us. What you're talking about is something completely different, and that's outside of the U.S. citizen. You have removed yourself as a U.S. citizen and become a free woman standing on the law of the land. That is completely different in the sense of what we're trying to accomplish here. I'm speaking to the majority, yes.
With all the oaths and, I mean, they're operating, the two governments are kind of, are operating. I mean, the United States is a corporation and the United States of America.
So essentially, very simply, what we're trying to understand, what I'm going to explain to you is in 1868, after the Civil War, we were all Americans living in, Illinois, Virginia, New York, Florida, what have you. And the Union wanted to incorporate under the United States. They wanted to bring everybody and change your name from being a citizen of Virginia or Illinois to a citizen of the United States. And that 14th Amendment is what did it. There was a lot of pushback originally from the states. 41% of the states did not want to do that. They didn't want to give up their state sovereignty. Eventually, they acquiesced. 2 states, New Jersey and Ohio, held out the longest and were really forced into it. And under duress, they signed up for this. So it's really a fraudulent 14th Amendment. And it's colored to be something great because you're getting your naturalization of your citizenship. But under that citizenship, you've now given up your rights for the privilege of being a U.S. citizen. And that privilege includes Social Security and welfare and all these government-assisted programs that we didn't have before. So, and that comes with a big cost. And as you now know, that cost in your state particularly is running in a major deficit, right? Are any of your programs even funded anymore? I mean, are the teachers going to get their pension? Right? It's pretty desperate here. So California, forget it. New York, same thing. So what we're talking about here is, are you an American or are you a a U.S. citizen? I deferred to being an American, but majority of the people are still U.S. citizens in this country. However, there's been a major shift because people are waking up to understanding that a U.S. citizen makes you party to a corporation, and from there they then had to contract with you as a corporate fiction of yourself, hence your Social Security number and your birth certificate. That is the government's corporate fiction of you, the people. So I don't want to get off down that path too much. Go ahead.
I would like to have Ann wrap up. One part that I didn't mention to her was that we go 45 minutes of her speaking, and then we go to question and answer. So if you want to have like 5 minutes or so, are you almost ready, or can we go to question and answer? Okay. All right. So I will, for those of you who are new, I have the mic, so we hope that you will wait until I get to you. I will try to get to as many people as we can, but we are always respectful of the speaker. It ends promptly at 8 o'clock. So I will start back here. And while I'm walking back here, I would like to offer anyone that's interested in Kane County that would like to sign up, because I think it's worthwhile to be what Ann is talking about, that we have a master list. Someone's going to have to take charge, so we kind of know what's going on here in Kane County. Is that correct, Ann? We should...
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can make a list back here if you'd like to sign up, but don't say nobody called me, because we're asking one of you to be in charge of it. So this is we the people's responsibility to take charge of this list. So somebody who wants to take over, we're happy to share the list, but we will coordinate the list tonight, and then someone in this room needs to raise their hand. So we'll come back here.
Hi, Ann. My name is Gina. I actually live in a different county, but I had heard about Tactical Civics, so I did my own digging, and there are actually chapters already in Illinois. But the one lady I found, and I like dug to find these people. But the one lady I talked to, she was way down south or something, but she had mentioned that you have to have a certain percentage of people in the county.
Half of 1%.
Okay.
Only 1/2 of 1%.
Only a half.
Very few, yes.
Oh, okay. Because she told me more, and she was like, "That's why we're trying to get smaller counties, but it's only a 0.5%."
Half of 1%, correct.
Half. Okay.
It's not
Thanks.
that many people. In fact, I'm talking with people right now in Cochise County, Arizona, because the election fraud is so bad there. Go ahead. I think we've got this lady in blue.
So for anybody that is interested, this is already happening. There's the Illinois Grand Jural Assembly, IGJA. It's not part of Tactical Civics, but it's the exact same thing. We've already actually assembled Cook and Lake, and we're working on McHenry, DuPage, Kane. We don't have as many people from Kane, but this is definitely exactly what Ann's saying, the way to go, right, if you're not doing state national. Yeah.
How those were vacated and what seats were brought in.
When you say how the seats were vacated, what do you mean by that?
Well, to go back to the government, that was,
You're talking about state national.
You're talking about state national. That's very different. This is something at the state level. Basically, what we're doing is recreating what happened before. Okay, so it's literally taking back, we the people, taking it back in this exact manner. So forming a grand jural assembly, right? So you actually are also not a part of the corporation anymore because you re-swear an oath. You go back before that and to the previous state constitution. So if you're interested, please just let me know, because one thing that we can't keep happening is this splintering going on. Like, I really want to talk to you, Ann, and make sure that or contact the tacticalcivics.com people, because we need to make sure that we're all on the same page and we don't have these little fiefdoms.
And they're not trying to create fiefdoms. That's not theirs. They're so harmonious and simpatico, but from what I'm seeing, they've got 1,000 chapters, and they're super organized, and they are meeting twice a week online. Everybody, yeah. Maybe we should merge them. Yes, yeah. Yes.
Got it. I took it from. Wait a minute.
I'll get you the info later.
What is the name?
It's the Illinois Grand Jural Assembly.
Illinois Grand Jural Assembly. So what my suggestion is we start a list here of anyone that's interested in the tactical civics. They can work out with Ann what makes sense so that we're not splintering and doing different groups, because we need everyone.
If it's the concept that is the same, I would make one list, and I'm sorry, your name? I would have Leslie oversee the list. Leslie, I'll introduce you to David Zuniga and the people there, because I think there's a real opportunity, because really it's not who's the fiefdom. They're not that way at all.
Exactly, and that's my point.
Yeah. Let's get everybody on the same page and coordinating together, because it's the same goal, and we just want to wear the same jersey and run down the field across the goalpost. Yep. All right. Cool. Awesome. Any more questions?
This is Dennis Ryan from Elburn, Kane County, out in the sticks. I got a first question I'm going to ask Bill Rowe. Bill, how many Democrats are on the county board versus Republicans?
too many.
8 Democrats and 8 Republicans. Well, the Democrats certainly aren't going to listen to anything that talks about free speech or freedom, so that's why I asked. One of the problems we've got, we need good Republican precinct committeemen. We've got a lot of empty seats, and we've got a lot of seats with people who never show up at meetings. And those people are needed to pass petitions to get people on the ballots. So I don't know how many people in here are precinct committeemen or not. I am. That's good. You're here and you care. A lot of them don't. That's the problem. We need good ones. So, but one of the problems, of course, is when we go to events where candidates are interviewed, like the League of Women Voters. People sit there and they act like they're looking at some kind of a golden idol at those guys up there. Those people want jobs, and we're the ones that are supposed to employ them by voting for them. If you have ever done interviews for jobs, you ask questions and don't just sit there like a lump and listen to what they tell you. So when those meetings are held, go to them and ask questions. Find out who they are. Don't fall in love with the candidate. Fall in love with the results that the candidate provides. And so that means incumbents, too. They're fair game. They're in there. They want a job. They want the money. So I'll turn that back to you.
just so everyone knows, we'd like to keep it to just a question because we'd like to have one question to everyone.
Hi, I'm just wondering, we were talking about trying to get leadership for action, which I think that was Leslie was talking about. I'm trying to figure out who is the leader for truthful news. So, you know, there are all kinds of noises out here, and then there's maybe more that are more truthful. Are there any people that you can advise that we listen to? Who are you aligned with?
Brandon Howes is a very good source of news. I love Brandon Howes' Worldview Tonight show. He's on Lindell TV. I talk to him at least once a week. I'm a guest on his show. Pete Santilli. Mel Kay, my good friend Mel Kay. I think my show's pretty good. I've been doing it for a long time. Ann Vandersteel, right now with Ann Vandersteel. Let's see here. Doug Billings does a nice job as well. And, you know, those are pretty, if that's for broadcast media, I read a lot of different publications. I read a lot of international papers that are published in English to get a smattering of what's really going around the world, because I can't depend on our domestic publications at all. So.
And my name is Jim Rabb. I live here in Kane County. I bleed red, white, and blue. My question to you is, you had mentioned earlier social media. Social media is being controlled by those who are trying to keep us quiet. How do you prevent the social media from being shut down? And also, it's probably a two-part question. The government, as Joe Biden says, our planes are bigger than your guns, from the government turning on us. So those two things. I'm concerned social media will be gone, and that we'll be up against fighting amongst ourselves.
So social media is good for communications and knowing what's going on because you can post. They do still censor. Truth Social does not censor, at least in my experience. Clout Hub does not censor. The app that they have on Tactical Civics, which really not, as I said, is not a social app, but it's for facts. But I would recommend you all have a communication plan. And what I mean by that is satellite phones for a backup are excellent. You can get bivvy sticks, which are texting. It's the ability to use your cell phone and a satellite stick to text from cell phone to cell phone. When the cell phones don't work, you can use your bivvy stick to connect to your cell phone via Bluetooth and send text messages to others. It's a very inexpensive way to stay in communications, what's going on. By the way, FEMA had an emergency contract to put up a ham radio tower just this last month in September. They put it up in the Midwest, and it just so happens that I know the contractor who was contacted by FEMA to erect this ham radio tower, and he said, I can get to you in about 3 months, and FEMA said, no, we'll pay you 3 times the going rate, we need it now. So they know something's coming. The elite class, the billionaire class, knows something is coming because they're building shelters and all sorts of food supplies for up to a year, including people who have yachts. They have below waterline dugouts for them to hibernate on their yacht with air and food for 10 months. So something is coming. They've been publishing the fact they need other amateur ham radio operators for situations that would include the millions of Americans who are at risk. Something is coming. You don't have to be, 20/20 vision to drive around and see all the empty see-through buildings in your neck of the woods with empty parking lots. But I'll tell you this much, with all the people coming across the border and the fact they're turning hotels into migrant camps, I'm thinking maybe some of these buildings would be really nice apartment buildings for some of these people, because something is coming. And the replacement population is coming across the border. They don't look at you and me as useful. We're useless eaters. They need servants. The elite class has got plans that don't include us, unfortunately. So this is why we need to deal with this elite class and their minions, which is your public servants here in Kane County and other Cook County and DuPage County. We need to get control of our government because our government is listening to the elite class at the World Economic Forum and the Committee of 300 and the Council on Foreign Relations. They're open about it. We've got to turn that spigot off. We've got to shut them out and get back to governing ourselves. And by the way, a militia here could do a lot to removing and replace and exporting these migrants that don't belong in your county that you shouldn't have to worry about crime and feeding and tuberculosis. And what's happening right now in Texas, FYI, if you like steaks, price of steak has gone up 30%. Why? One of the biggest problems is tuberculosis has come across, and that's a zoonotic disease. It's coming from migrant to cow, and one cow in a herd of 10,000, the whole herd of 10,000 gets slaughtered. So they are slaughtering cattle by the tens of thousands in Texas, dairy farms in Wisconsin, etc. This is the kind of work that these people who are here for a better life are coming to get, and that's all they know, but they're killing our cattle. So our food supply is under attack. You've heard about all of the food warehouses that have burned down mysteriously or blown up. I mean, how do cattle farms blow up? But they do, apparently. We have Hezbollah, we have Hamas, and we have terror cells in all 50 states. It's coming. Something bad is going to happen. We have discovered many tunnels that have fiber optic cable and lights and electricity and air conditioning running underground from the Mexican border into America. They could drive tractor trailers in them. And you're telling me Customs and Border Protection didn't know they were there or being built? Just like what happened in Israel, 7 hours went by before the IDF responded to paragliders that flew over? Come on. Do they think we're stupid? Yeah. They do. So let's show them we're not stupid. Let's show them we know the law. Let's show them that we can stand up, and let's show them we can indict these people, get rid of them, get control of our government, and stop listening to the criminals in D.C. that are taking their marching orders from the World Economic Forum, because they have plans for us, and it's not a happy retirement, folks. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, because we all thought we were going to sail off into the sunset, but we've got to do this because we have a duty to our country, to our God, and our children. The future depends on you. Thank you very much.
Right, we have another question over here. I don't think it's quite 8.
Quick question about an aspect of immigration in Europe. So the EU has been shunting immigrants in for like 20 years. And I read that within 2 days of pro-Palestinian protests breaking out, governments in England and France are talking about deporting any such protesters. I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Well, gee, what took them so long? I mean, you know, when I hear stuff like that, I find it incredibly ironic that it took for it to get to this point for them to recognize there's a problem when they already have no-go zones in Paris and the UK. And Sweden has bombs that go off regularly, and most women have been raped at least once. So for the fact that the government is going, well, we should probably deport these protesters, to me it's as good as Greg Abbott saying, we're going to send these migrants to Chicago, and we're going to show Chicago, this is what it's like to be Texas. Are you kidding me? This is what we call, what Michael, Jan, and I call kayfabe. You know, those wrestlers that go in and pretend to hurt each other. This all it is. It's a show. So I don't give these people any sort of credence, because it's a little too little too late at this point. It's going to take more than just words to actually show us that these people mean to protect us. If they did, they wouldn't have allowed it to get this far to begin with. That's how I see it.
Thanks for being here. I'm an attorney. I used to prosecute. I've worked both sides of the county. You talked about the good things about being a citizen of the United States, a corporation. Tell us about why it's great to leave and be a national.
Thank you for asking. So for me, it's about the principle. Our government, when we found this country, we came here to be Americans. We came here for freedom, our First Amendment rights. When we became U.S. citizens, after electing our public servants from 17 whenever till 1868, we were electing public servants as Americans, and we were Americans that lived in our own states. We were a union of states. We were not a centralized nation. A nation has a centralized government. We have become a nation, not a union, not a country. And ergo, by giving away our rights as ordained by God, your right to be free, and becoming U.S. citizens, you have now relinquished those rights, as evidenced by a U.S. citizen who is part of a corporation, because 3 years after they made us U.S. citizens in 1868, they actually incorporated the USDC, United States District of Columbia, that 10 square miles. But they're very tricky. And I mean no disrespect, because I have a lot of attorney friends, but lawyers can use language and they're very crafty. It's wordsmithing, word salad. The language that they use is very confusing, and they conflate things. So a zip code, a zone improvement parcel, is a federal designation of a territory. Just like Puerto Rico is a federal territory, Guam is a federal territory. As a U.S. citizen, you're only supposed to be a member of a federal territory. But by putting you in zip codes, they put everybody into the federal designation. Ergo, you are part of the United States as a municipal servant, which is why when you work for a big corporation, anybody work for a big company? If they say you have to wear a yellow tie on Tuesday, it's part of the job, what are you going to do? Wear your tie on Tuesday, right? You're yellow, not pink, yellow. So as a U.S. citizen, when they mandate something, just like our military was mandated to take the vaccine, even though that's unlawful because it was experimental, people did it because they believed that was the law. So this is how they've got you coming and going. They have you in a word salad that you can't really fully understand. So on principle, to your question, I didn't want to be party to a corporation that was funding endless wars and forcing its citizens to do things that were not good for them without any informed consent. And when I saw a stolen election happen, I said, that's it, I'm out. I can't be a party to this anymore. I love America. I'm staying in here. In fact, I just flew in from out of the country. I have a U.S. passport with a designation as a non-U.S. citizen. And I went through that line when I immigrated back into the country.
What legal standing does that give you for any kind of anything?
As what is your name? As Susie just personified what happened here to her, you had a ticket for using your cell phone, not hands-free or something?
It was, I had a bag of them in my seat and popped it over and I was like, well, I'll try my thinking on my cell phone.
Was he trying to pull you over for what?
Holding a cell phone when I was stopped.
Holding a cell phone when you were stopped. So as a national, she chose the law enforcement, the policy enforcement officer, as a policy enforcer, that she was not going to contract because she is not a corporate citizen anymore. She's not corporate fiction. And as a lawyer, you would know you have to have a corporation to contract with a corporation, hence your all caps corporate name. So she said, I'm not that. So I can't contract with you because you're a corporation. So she went and explained this to the judge, who rightfully dismissed the case.
After I said my God gave me right, and my only one I contract with is God, she didn't got me out.
Right. So that's just this is a simple example, but that's essentially what it is. I hope that was clear. Okay. Yeah. But for me, it's the principle of it all. I don't bow down to anybody except God. And when a judge asks you, do you understand? Essentially what the judge is saying is, I stand on top of you, and I don't stand underneath anybody but God.
Yes.
So if a judge were to ask me, do you understand? I'd say, I comprehend. I don't understand. I know we have one more question. Debbie, you have to tell me when to stop.
Sorry, Ann. Hi.
Oh.
Thank you so much for coming to our committee board meeting this morning. You were amazing. We've been going to these meetings monthly, and we're trying to go
Thank you.
Yeah, going to as many committee meetings as possible. And what we are finding, so we have 16 Democrats, and I know it's a party thing, and we're super annoyed with the whole Republican thing, but there's 16 Democrats, 8 Republicans. Unfortunately, most of the Republicans are voting with the Democrats. It's very uniparty down there, and I just want everyone in this room to know that. What do you suggest as far as, we've gone to where blue in the face, like talking about, contact tracing and why you shouldn't take Zuckerbucks. Our county accepted $2.35 million in Zuckerbucks, on and on and on. It's like you're talking to a wall. So, do we just fire these people? Do we, they don't understand either. Some of them are small-minded, some of them are sleepy and old, and some of them are on the take probably, but can you just recommend what you would say, just fire the people, or do we still try to?
Typically, you're supposed to be able to fire them at the ballot box, but apparently with Zuckerbucks and mail-in fraud everywhere, it's really hard to do that. So you can't. That system isn't working. It's not working, right? The system is not working, so why do we keep doing the same thing expecting a different result? I'm not saying don't vote. That's not what I mean. But we have to now engage with the evidence that we have and convene these grand juries. Thank you, Leslie. I'm so excited to know that you're here and that you understand this, and that we start to indict these people with the evidence, and that we, the people, say, okay, your sheriff isn't going to do the job. Well, we have a militia that will. And we're gonna, and we have to. This is going to be. This is not an easy process in terms of, is it going to run smoothly? It's going to get cantankerous. But my God, 56 men gave their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor so that we could stand here and talk about this. We have a duty to stand up and talk about it and do it. We can't just stand here we can't expect somebody else to come in and do this for us. We have to take responsibility. We allowed it to get this far. Sorry. Our truths.
Hi. what can I do to help as a kid, and where do I sign up to join the militia?
Oh my God, there you go. The future is right here. What is your name, young man?
Max.
Max. Oh, I love that name. Max, how old are you?
13.
You're 13. God bless him. Another round of applause. That's amazing. Thank you, Max. That's awesome. Well, Max, I would submit to you, let's get you to 18 years old. I would absolutely encourage you, if you have a family member that likes to go to a shooting range and practice and get your... Okay, Mom, you're doing an awesome job. Hone your skills, understand good gun safety and self-defense, and study the Constitution, because it's not a very long document to read, but it says very clearly in plain English what we need to be able, what we can do, and what we should be allowed to do, what our God-given rights are, and how the government is structured to protect and defend those God-given rights. You start there in 5 years, I think you'll be leading this militia, and your county here will get cleaned up because of young leaders like you. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Good job, Mom. Good job.
I'm coming over here. Oh, sorry.
Debbie's on the run. These ladies are incredible. I want to thank Debbie and Sue. And Les, thank you for opening your home last night. I had Portillo's. My husband, who's from Illinois, was crying because he wasn't here.
Well, hi, I'm Dr. Lawrence Stowe, and I'm a visitor from Moline, Illinois. But came up here because somebody invited me. Dean White invited me on Facebook. Oh, wow. So I think I have some followers in this room. You may be the first time you're ever meeting me, but one of the things that I try to teach people, and you have mentioned your faith, and so this goes to you as well. The hardest thing for a Christian to learn is to discern, confront, bind, and overcome evil. We're real good about the discernment part. Our pastors love to get up there and discern evil. But do they ever ask you to confront it? Do they ever ask you to go out and bind it? Do they ever ask you to go over and overcome it? No. That requires you to be a disciple of Christ with a warrior's mentality. So my question to you is, are you a disciple of Christ with a warrior's mentality?
Absolutely. I don't fear anything. I don't travel with a security detail. I have friends in my world that, do all that stuff. I don't, because I'm always protected. I've never worried about it. I've never been in fear, even when the jungle was, eating me alive in certain aspects. But I don't fear anything, because I know I'm doing what I think is what God wants me to do. I'm just following in His footsteps. But to bind the evil, tactical civics and jural assemblies, citizen grand juries, is exactly how you will bind the evil, and you will wrap it up and get rid of it. And I'm serious as a heart attack when I say this. We can actually set examples across the country. You get a county in Illinois to do this, watch what happens in some of these redder states. They're going to be going, and you watch how these public servants respond and start going, oh, yes, you had election integrity. You know what, let me go back and recount these ballots. I think there might have been a problem. You know what, we should probably remove those electors for Joe Biden. This is what I see happening in Arizona. It's moving in that direction, but let's not let them be the ones that bring the glory. Let's have it happen here in this county first. Let's show Americans that Illinois is not a dead blue state, that you all are ready and red and breathing red, white, and blue. Let's do it.
Thank you for coming. My friend Chad invited me.
This man's very funny, by the way.
Yeah. So I told my good friend Walter over there, I said, this is the whitest room I've ever seen. See, that's right there tells me that you all are never ready to be real disciples. Because Jesus would be in Inglewood, Chicago, where the most affected by everything. I've been to jail twice for denying migrants passage.
Good
Twice in Chicago.
Thank you.
Also, we've stopped, our group stopped putting injunctions and stopped the migrants from moving into Wadsworth, and we in South Shore. I went to jail at Wadsworth. So what I'm saying to y'all is, black people who helped build this country have no stake in this country, while other people get in front of us when the America promise still haven't been kept to us, and you all don't show up like we show up to say, hey, we Americans, and we deserve a seat at the table and the issues and ills. Young man, no matter how much you want to be a militia, black men do not produce guns, weapons, extended clips, 100-round drums, SIGs, Glocks, cocaine, heroin, weed. Yet we are the most victimized and incarcerated prosecutor by all those accoutrements that we don't even produce. And you, young man, the little young men, 150 women and kids murdered in Chicago. And we talking about a lot of other stuff. And they will kill you, little brother, because they don't even, that government is telling them that y'all are our enemies. That's right. You won't even make it to a militia because those young men that don't know you and y'all got so much in common have been made to see you as their future enemy. And you are. So I'm going to say this, I'm going to get this up, because I could do this all day. The Republican Party is stupid. I've probably stopped over 1,000 shootings in 2 years. I probably stopped young men for carjacking. You know why they're carjacking? To get to you. Because they tell them, y'all got all the money in it while they stealing up on our nose. They stealing. This is a Democratic city in a Democratic state, but they blaming Trump. This is a black man telling you this. But if you all out here and bumble whatever, and you never come down like Jesus and the disciple to, when I'm sick and I'm hungry and I fed you not. Why were you in prison and I visited you not? We not Christian. You're not acting like disciples of Christ. Because the war is in Chicago that will ultimately trickle down to all of our blocks, communities, and you going to be forced to be a militia anyway. But it'll be us fighting against us. And this gotta come to a point where here we are looking for a new party to go to, black folks. Y'all said that the Democrats win because black and poor Latinos. But you sitting out here masturbating on democracy. I'm a blue, red, I bleed red. So do I. But I'm telling you, it's time now. When I show up with y'all at City Hall and I say, these my family, and another 100,000 black people show up with me and say, we're not caught up in that. But y'all not tapping into the landscape and the temperature of what the migrants is creating, that the Democrats are creating with the help of Abbott and all of them, to cause us. God is working to unify us, but we want to stay in our silos. Stay there and watch what happens. Democrats going to continue to do what they're doing. No taxation without representation. I ain't paying no more taxes.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Karen Sampson. I am part of the General Assembly in Illinois. A lot of you know me.
Yay.
So if you give your information on a list, I can get you on. They have a training every 2 weeks, the Illinois Assembly. You get on that training, you go through the documentation, you figure out pretty much what she's saying. We have to assemble to get it fixed. That's the bottom line. How many people are in a jury? 12 and an alternate. We need 13 people to have a jury. And then de facto goes away, de jure comes in, they can't do anything. So put your name on a list. If you want it, you'll get it. That's it.
Let's see, Becky back here will have the list, all right? So you can put your name back here. Becky, you can just use one of those sheets there. So anyone interested, and then we'll work. Karen is from Kane County. Leslie, are you in Kane County? Okay, Karen is from Kane County. So we do have, could be a representation, even though she's not necessarily promising me that she'll be the leader.
So I'm Ginger, and I known about all this kind of stuff for a really long time. Anyway, what everybody's saying sounds great, but we kick these people out, and what about the money? We're dealing with fiat currency, which belongs to the bankers, and they decide they're going to pull it on us. What happens?
States have got to stand back up their own money. The Treasury is supposed to be coining the money as it is. We have replaced the Treasury to coin our money for the Federal Reserve. It needs to go away.
So, do we still use it? Pretend, I mean, because it's monopoly money anyway.
Are you still taking it? I mean, that's your choice. You can take it and hope that it's still worth something. Me, I'm putting all my stuff in hard assets that I have things I could trade with because I don't trust the fiat currency. I mean, I'm thinking ahead knowing that this train wreck's coming. Does anybody here not think the dollar is going to finally just be so ridiculously inflated it's going to be too ridiculous to use? Does anybody think that we're going to have a dollar that's going to be great for the rest of this time you're on the planet? Are you investing in gold, silver, hard assets, food, precious metals? Are you guys protecting yourself with things that you can trade? Should be bartering alive and well? We still barter with things, don't we? It's coming back. We're going to see this reset's on its way, and it's how do we want to prepare for it? Don't be scared. Just get prepared. Think about what you can use. Anybody else?
Yes.
My name is Devin Jones. I'm from Chicago. I'm the guy that talked to you earlier, the comedian.
See you sitting down there.
I just wanted to, I guess with Pastor saying some stuff, Tyrone, I was going to speak and shout out Tyrone anyway. Because I'm a Republican committeeman, 18th Ward, southwest side of Chicago. If anybody is originally from Chicago, you might know the Ashburn community near Ford City. So that's where I'm at. I would probably say the person who should be leading any type of conservative movement, I'm going to say this publicly, because Tyrone takes a lot of hits on behalf of conservatives, real conservatives in Chicago.
He took $3 million from our organization that's doing violence in Chicago.
See, this would be the person that should be leading a conservative movement in Chicago, but it's not happening because we got a weird Republican Party. Anyway, I want to thank you you said a lot of stuff. This stuff never makes it into, we had a conversation about the black community and everything, but this stuff never makes it into our community.
I'll come to your community anytime.
Yes,
anytime.
Yes. And even in thinking about the idea of placing assets into or placing your money into a hard asset, most of us do not have the money to place in a hard asset. I'm saying this as a privileged black person. I went to Catholic schools. We have money in my family. But that's not the reality of how government has raped and pillaged our community from the time that we got off of here. So I'm just saying that so that you recognize that a lot of times when you think, why are people voting a certain way? Why do they not vote? Why is this stuff not resting with those people over there? They voted for that. They did this. We don't have you all saying anything or pouring into people like me or Tyrone to go into the community. We have weird Republican. Am I lying? I don't mean to take the mic like that, But seriously, we got a lot of weird people, and the reason that the conservative movement is destroyed in Chicago is not necessarily because of Democrats. It's because of the people that you see in leadership that tell you they're doing something and they're not. They're doing the complete opposite, and they're preventing things like this from making it into our community. They're preventing, I'm a Republican committeeman. Go ask that Republican Party in that city that we all talk about, I'm not going to say the name, ask them about Devin Jones and watch them tell you do not talk to him. Am I lying? So that's just what I'm saying. Thank you for talking about Governor Abbott. I have been so upset with the fact that people think that it makes sense to flood Chicago with migrants, because I'm telling you, we're going to send them out here. We're going to send them out here. So we got to stop with the dog and pony show.
When the food runs out in Chicago, they're going to come to the neighborhoods.
And I'm coming too, because I got to eat too. So,
right.
But we need this information in Chicago. That was my only point. I'm sorry for taking up so much time.
Thank you for coming, Devin.
Thank you, Devin. I have one more question, and this will be it. So the last question is over here. Yes, just 1 second.
Hi, Anne. I'm so excited that you're here, and I want to I just want to express that I'm like amazed. This room is beautiful. I'm like really feeling it. The one thing I want to say, and I'm very naive, so maybe you can straighten me out here, but it seems to me that our tax dollars are funding the corruption.
Correct.
They see it as a piggy bank for their yachts and their bunkers and their et cetera, so on and so forth. And none of us wants violence. Nobody wants war. The simplest, least violent solution I can think of, considering the fact that the military and the police and the so on and so forth that they use to control us are funded by us. We don't sign the checks, but we fund the account. Wouldn't the easiest thing be for everyone to just stop paying taxes?
Did I say that? Gee, I don't know. That could be a really good idea, but I didn't come up with that idea. No, in all fairness, what we're paying is we're paying the usury fees for the money they're just printing. They're just printing that money out of thin air. Our taxes don't cover the budget that they spend. We don't collect that much. What we are paying for is the interest on the money that they print, which is going to be pretty much soon to about $1 trillion a month here pretty soon. So we can't keep up, which is why I say we're going to implode. But thank you for your kind comments. I really do appreciate it. And yes, I'm feeling it too.
So this is the end of our presentation. We'd like to thank George and Lynn Havlicek for sponsoring us tonight.
Thank you very much. What a great evening.
I'd like to remind you that on November 14th, we have Reverend Lee. December 13th, we have Cassandra Mott. Please don't forget our charity. And we'd like to give a huge round of applause for Ann Vandersteel. What a
Thank
great
you very much.
night.
Thank
I
you.
hope that everyone has learned a lot tonight, and share with your friends, as Tom Wren said. We can't say that enough. Share this information. She's awesome. We'll have the video up on threeheadedeaglealliance.org. So please go there and watch it if you don't believe me. So thank you,
Thank you,
Ann.
Debbie. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.